She dropped out of Stanford at 19, raised $900 million, became the youngest female billionaire in history with a machine that didn't exist. But here's the real question. Did she know she was lying? Or did she believe every word? In 2003, a 19-year-old college dropout walked into the offices of some of the most powerful men in America. She told them she had invented a machine that could detect cancer, diabetes, and 200 diseases from a single drop of blood. No hospital visit, no needle, no lab, just one drop. They believed her. They gave her $900 million. She became the youngest female billionaire in history. There was only one problem. The machine didn't work. And she knew. Or did she? Elizabeth Ann Holmes was born in 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her family had money, connections, ambition, but never enough for Elizabeth. From childhood, she told everyone, "I want to be a billionaire, not a scientist, not a doctor, a billionaire." At Stanford, she studied chemical engineering. She was obsessed with one idea. People were dying because blood tests took too long and cost too much. What if you could do it faster, cheaper, with just one drop? At 19, she dropped out of Stanford. She took her tuition money and started a company called Theranos. She had no medical degree, no engineering experience, no proof of concept, but she had something more powerful than all of those. She had a story, and she told it perfectly. She wore a black turtleneck, like Steve Jobs. She lowered her voice an entire octave to sound more authoritative. She made unbroken eye contact that made powerful men feel she could see straight through them. And she told them about people she loved suffering through painful blood tests. About wanting to change that. It was a perfect story, rehearsed down to the pause before the emotion.
Psychologists studying Holmes identified what they call grandiose delusion, a belief so powerful in one's own vision that the distance between "this will work" and "this works" begins to disappear. She didn't start as a liar. She started as a true believer. The tragedy of Elizabeth Holmes is not that she was evil. It's that she was so convinced of what she could become that she forgot to check if she was already there. This is the most seductive form of self-deception because it looks exactly like courage.
By 2013, Theranos was valued at $9 billion. Elizabeth Holmes was on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, and Time magazine. She was called the next Steve Jobs, the female Edison. Her board of directors included 2 former secretaries of state, 2 former secretaries of defense, and a former director of the FBI. Nobody asked to see the data. Nobody asked to see the machine work. Nobody asked the one question that should have been asked from the very beginning. Does it actually work? Walgreens signed a $140 million deal. Safeway invested $350 million. Real patients began using the machine. Real blood tests. Real results. Real medical decisions made based on those results. The machine was still broken. This is the part that separates Elizabeth Holmes from Bernie Madoff. Madoff stole money. Holmes risked lives. The Theranos machine gave false positives for HIV and cancer, telling healthy people they were dying. It gave false negatives, telling sick people they were fine. One patient received a result suggesting she might have a miscarriage. She didn't, but the panic, the fear, the trauma was real. Another patient's result suggested heart problems so severe he was rushed to emergency care. He was healthy. How many decisions were made based on numbers that were simply wrong? We will never fully know.
This is where the psychology becomes genuinely disturbing. Elizabeth Holmes knew the machine was running most tests on competitor equipment, not her own technology. She knew the results were unreliable, and she continued. Because in her mind, the technology was almost there. The vision was real. The lie was just temporary. This is the most dangerous kind of self-deception, the kind that feels like courage. When the harm you cause today feels justified by the good you believe you will do tomorrow, you have crossed a line that most people never come back from.
Tyler Schultz was 22 years old when he joined Theranos as a scientist. He was also the grandson of George Schultz, one of Holmes' most powerful board members. Within months, Tyler realized the data didn't add up. The tests weren't working. The numbers were being manipulated. He went to his grandfather, George Schultz, told him he was wrong, that Holmes was a genius, that he should trust her. Tyler went to the regulators instead. Holmes sent lawyers after him. Private investigators followed him. His phone was monitored. His grandfather stopped speaking to him. For years, he stood alone.
I had to ask myself, was I willing to let people get hurt because I was afraid? I decided I wasn't. It cost me everything for a while. My career, my family relationships, my sense of safety. But I could live with that. I couldn't live with the alternative.
In 2015, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou published his investigation. Theranos technology didn't work. Tests were being run on competitor machines. Results were unreliable. Patients had been put at risk. Holmes went on TV. She called it lies. She said Carreyrou was being used by her enemies to destroy her. She smiled. She never broke. But the FDA investigated. The CDC investigated. The SEC investigated. In 2018, Elizabeth Holmes was indicted on 11 counts of fraud. In 2022, she was found guilty, sentenced to 11 years in federal prison.
Before she went to prison, Elizabeth Holmes had a baby, then another. At her sentencing, she cried. She said she was sorry. She said she had tried her best. Her victims didn't believe her. The judge didn't believe her. But here is the question that keeps me awake. Did she?
The psychiatric evaluation of Holmes revealed something unexpected. No clear diagnosis of psychopathy. No antisocial personality disorder. What they found instead was a person of extraordinary intelligence with an almost complete inability to distinguish between what she wanted to be true and what was true. She didn't build Theranos to steal. She built it to become the person she had promised everyone she was. The tragedy is not that she lied. The tragedy is that she believed her own lies so completely that by the time real people were being hurt, she had reclassified the harm as temporary, as a necessary step toward the vision. We call this motivated reasoning, and every single one of us does it. Every day. About smaller things. The difference between Elizabeth Holmes and the rest of us is not the capacity for self-deception. It's the scale.
She believed one drop of blood could save the world. She was right about the dream, wrong about everything else. And somewhere in that gap between who she believed she was and who she actually was, real people paid the price. Tyler Schultz, the whistleblower who stood alone for years, was asked what he learned. He said, "The most dangerous person in the room is not the one who knows they're lying. It's the one who doesn't." Next week, we look at the man who didn't just fool a country, he fooled an entire ideology and built a religion around himself. Subscribe. This one is different from anything we've done before.